Today we will be building a multi-tenant SaaS application. It is fully productive app using Lovable.dev. Lovable generates code. It's very good for creating applications on the cloud. You can build websites. As you can see here, I have already this app open in my system. I've also shared the invite code. If you want, you can try with me building the app. And whatever I'm discussing in this particular session, you can try out in parallel. When you sign up, you get 5 credits. One credit is for one chat message. So as you are seeing, this is about building an app by chat as you do it in ChatGPT. For free, you get very limited number of chat messages, which is 5 per day. You have to use your chat messages very intelligently. If you sign up using this invite code, you will get 10 more credits for free, which should be good starting point. Later, I will also share my affiliate code so that you can purchase the paid version. No worries, this is not a sponsored video. I was tracking the trend that there is a lot of AI code builders which are getting popular. And there are hundreds of videos over YouTube and various social media about how you can generate code very effectively, very fast in few minutes. But I was skeptical about will it be able to develop a multi-tenant app, a SaaS app which can host multiple customers and which has full features like any other app we have, for example, Salesforce.com or HubSpot in CRM space, in ERP space, apps from Oracle and SAP. So can we build something of that sort, which is using a lot of database queries, showing dashboards, analytics, full of KPIs and giving valuable insights, a data-driven app? I took an example of building the CRM extension. This app is about reputation management, or you can also call it innovation management. Here, organization may collect feedback from customers. I will be showing the step-by-step process of how I built this fully functional app, which is almost like a MVP. If I count my total effort, would be around 1 day work. So how I build a complete SaaS application, minimum viable product, and it is ready for usability testing as well. No worries. I will be describing the process which is started from scratch and applied all the system design technical concepts which I have learned from many decades of experience in big companies and used these concepts to generate the application. Now, you see here, I have built multiple projects and applications. So basically, if you're a first timer, you need to sign into Dev, which is very simple as you are signing up in any other application like Gmail or any other internet-based application. You provide your detail, email ID, and then you will be signing up. And once you are signed up, you will get something like this interface. So this is the landing page of Lovable. And here you see that, okay, they're showing a prompt, showing a text box where you have to input a chat prompt. So here you see they say ask Lovable to create, it can create a portfolio site or a web or a prototype or an internal tool. It's also say dashboard. This tool is very intuitive. You can learn very fast and you can start playing around. You can start using it. And this is the best way to learn. And definitely a good amount of documentation is there. There is a community. There are tutorials. It's this being a new application. There's not too much of resource. So that's why I'm covering this particular application from scratch and showing you all the features and how I build a fully functional SaaS-based application. And let me show you that first so that you get an impression about what we are building and what would be the final output or like. So you see, this is the app which I built. It is loading. So as you see here, this is my complete dashboard app. Let me launch this. Yeah, I can show you here. And then you see here, this is a dashboard for all the feedbacks a customer receives for their organization. And here as a user, when you log in, You can see what are the number of feedbacks. You see here nice animation, color coding, and also icons or emojis to depict what is this matrix all about. Say, for example, positive feedback has a thumbs up emoji or icon. Issue has this warning symbol. And then this application is named as Insyte Pulse. It is used to track, analyze, and respond to customer feedback effectively. So in one glance, in less than few seconds, these all can be customized as in any enterprise application. I haven't built a management app, but yes, definitely going forward, all these fields could be customizable. These also include AI features. So if there is some feedback which is already added, you can analyze, you can do the sentiment analysis, and you can do auto tagging for classification of the feedbacks. And then there is tags which are predefined. So feedback is about, is a bug report, or is it a feature request, or is it a general feedback, or is it a pricing related feedback or usability issue. So all these are various options which have been provided. There is an option to edit and delete these feedbacks if a product manager wants. So this screen is for product manager. And as he is changing the message, so for example, I'm just adding some message because this is a positive feedback. So thank you for, say, wonderful support. I did adding some positive message. So right now we see that this is saying positive, and there are some tags because this is a feature request. It's clean and minimal, like heat map. Permitting just adds few more power features to stand out. So this is what AI has automatically classified it as a feature request. I can reanalyze this message because now I have added more feedback here, more text here. Thank you for wonderful support provided. So here the positivity rating has increased further. So it is plus 60%. If there is a negative feedback, then you will get negative percentage. And this is automatically tagged. And we can remove some tags, and then when we regenerate this or reanalyze, it will add back, or you can save it by doing some manual editing. So this is app, and all the data is stored in database. So now let's talk about the process, how this app is built. Hope this is what you have not seen so far, such a fully functional app. And the beauty is someone can create multiple organizations. So for example, if I'm a consultant working for multiple organizations, or I'm looking to track multiple products, I can create here more organizations. An organization is like a tenant, and whenever a new user logs in, he will get a new tenant. And then you see here, this is another organization I'm managing the feedback for. And then same thing, you will see, you have the collection of feedback for the other organizations as well. So it's not just a single tenant application. So this is what I meant by multi-tenant application. This particular SaaS application is a cloud product, and it can host multiple customers, not just one customer. And it can be provided as a service, software as a service. And all the data is isolated. One customer do not see the data of the other customer. So this is what I mean by multi-tenant application. And then let's now discuss in depth about how this particular application was built from scratch. Yeah. So this is, we are back into the home screen. So the application which I showed was built using Anthropic Claude as the model, and that the data, the UX design was also generated by Claude. Definitely a lot of refinement, a lot of feedback I have to provide. So humans are required here. And it was not that one prompt was given and this particular app generated everything, because there are a lot of technical complexities, architectural decisions, which has to be taken to build such a fully functional app. I first started with creating a prompt for this particular app. Definitely, first thing is you have to find out an idea, what you want to build. You have to start writing a prompt. Let me show you in few seconds the prompt. for this particular. I've said that create a AI powered app that helps an enterprise track customer feedback. So this is easy to understand problem. You can give more context as well. Then make sure customers can add feedback, include a description, type of feedback, customer name, list all feedbacks on the main page, make it sleek. So something, this is what the initial prompt I started with. Definitely I researched about what all features I would need. And I then started improvising these particular prompts. But this is also a good starting point. So next time I felt that, okay, let me also define what exactly the feature set I should add. So yes, if you don't have idea about what all features you want to build, you can start with some initial prompt, let the system suggest some ideas, and then you can proceed further. So first step is you enter an initial prompt and in the prompt box. And then you can also think about refining this prompt and adding more features. So if what are the key features? For example, I was clear that, okay, I want features like add feedback. I want the feedback form, the name, type of feedback description. I want the feedback type to be positive or issue if there is a problem reported with that app or any of the product or service of the organization, that people can give the negative feedback or issue reporting. And then there could be neutral feedback also, which is just sharing some experience or suggestions which are neither positive or negative. Then I want the list of all the feedbacks so that someone can get into the details of the feedback. I want the statistics in the dashboard so that someone can get a quick overview, and in one glance, someone can see this application, how the sentiment for this particular company is. And it should be getting updated in the real time. There should be search, filtering. So all these features you can describe and create a list. So there's no limit in the number of feedbacks or number of features which you can put in. So next step was I improvised a prompt. So now this is a detailed prompt which I wrote, create a sleek, user-friendly, modern web app that helps customer feedback working. And then these features I described one by one. There were around 15 features, and I put that, okay, add feedback, all these feedback types, I defined the complete listing, statistics, dashboard. So you have to act as a product manager, give the list of features. And then once you are ready, you can hit this enter or submit, and this will generate the app fully functional code for you. This is very simple interface, and you can generate websites, portfolio sites, business websites, business app. You can generate your professional portfolio. You can build your personal blogging site, or there is a lot of things which you can build. So once you type in your prompt and hit enter, what you will get is you will get some UI like this. So you see here so much prompts and feedback inputs. These I have to provide to build this particular application effectively. So now let's go through all of these in detail. But yes, so on the left side, you have all the interactions which you have done with this Lovable app for generating the code for the app. So once you have given the prompt, so here I might have given almost like 100 prompts. A prompt is usually costs you around 20 cents, because when you purchase a license, purchase it for $25, and for that you get 1 month of subscription and 100 credits, which means you can give 100 prompts. So yeah, the prompt could be anything. It could be a big prompt with, say, 15 feature, or I can also give a small prompt, modify this particular heading or add a logo, or if I do some small modification in one command, this is also counted as single credit. So you have to be really careful about how to give the commands. And this is what I will be covering here. I will give you tips and advise how to build. So that's why initially I started with a smaller prompt. Then I found that, okay, let me give list of all the features and help it, let the Lovable decide and build the code for all the features one by one in single prompt. So that way I don't exhaust my credits. But still, you have to do a lot of refinements, and the code which it generated will not be 100% error free, but still it will be in with very good quality. So yeah, these are all the interactions, because the interaction will involve your prompt, and then it also involves the thought process, which this particular tool is taking. So it does a systematic thought process and then generates that for you. So it describes all the steps which is being done. So let me share you more about this interface. So as you can see, this is my initial prompt. So build a sleek and modern AI-powered enterprise web app to track and manage customer feedback. So this is what I described. And as I said, initially I started with a small prompt, but then I improvised this prompt, gave more thought about what all features I would want. So did some research. So this is a good step. So basically, whatever idea you have, first try to validate this idea, see what competitive products are there or what you exactly want. Maybe do some research over the internet, find out what are the gaps in existing products, and then I felt that okay, this use case and is not fully solved, is useful for wide range of customers from small companies to big organizations. This is very important use case. So I have decided on the particular use case, and which is an extension. So then I put the feature list, keeping that in mind. So I had the add feedback form, and then what all I want to input, then what all the different feedback types. More detailed you describe your app, better will be the output. Then you have to modify it less. So that way I gave a lot of instructions. And also I kept in mind that some ideas let the model generate. So yeah, as you see here, I had more ideas, but I didn't put all of them. I put things which were good enough, because you don't want a lot of code to be generated and then you get lost. And if it is not as per your requirement, then you have to do a lot of effort to either streamline it. Then no, this makes more difficult to manage, because you might have seen that meme that before ChatGPT, developers used to code maybe in their 8 hour day, you know, 5 hours, and then debug 1 or 2 hours. But with ChatGPT, you code maybe 1 hour, but then debug 23 hours rest of the day. So wanted to avoid that situation. So I started with a small prompt, and then I felt that, okay, I will start with some small feature and then keep it enhancing as my will become more, as per my need. So this way you also get more clarity, because if even if you have well researched feature list, but how the features should behave, will this be usable and intuitive for your clients? This is also very important. So that is what I did. So with this prompt, I start. And on the right side, I then got the initial version of the code. So here, let me come back and show you the interface. So here you see this is the sidebar. I can hide it. And when you hide it, you see here there is a drop down. So here it shows that, okay, how many credits you have, then some settings, themes, and all. So that's not that important. You have a history also. So you have a view history. When you click, you will see what all changes you have made. So this is great thing, because if one version I'm not good at, I'm not liking, I can revert to the previous version. So this way you have the entire history maintained and tracked for your application. So with the first prompt, the output. Maybe I will share these prompts in the description or in the comments in the video. With the first prompt, what I got was something like this. This was the first prompt out which I got. So see here, I am able to go and view the history of project. This is my first version. It was looking good enough. You see here, it is very impressive in the first glance itself. So you just enter the prompt and what you get is a UI like this. But here, no signing was missing. No authentication was in place. There was no data populated, but everything was fully functional. So I had this add feedback form and there were few fields. So initially only the customer name, feedback type, and description was there, and submit and cancel option was there. And there was no database. So here, if I enter some, let me give you some data. If suppose I put some customer name, I put some feedback. So if this is some feedback, general feedback, I store it. So it also see here, there is a customer feedback card. So someone can view all the feedbacks. So that was possible. But if you refresh this particular page, then this feedback is gone because this was not stored in the database. But in my final version, that's not the case. This was very initial version. And let me just say, if you click on restore this version, then this particular version will be restored. And the code part is also there. So to view the code, let me try making it smaller. You can also view the code, which is for your app. GitHub is also connected. What it does is creates in the GitHub all the source code. So it generates the source code using React. So this is how the source code is. So you have pages and index. The code is also very well maintained. So you can see here, this is structured very well. So there is a tech stack as well. And whatever code is generated, this is my project. And in this particular project, if you see the code organization, there is a README file also. It got generated and then I later modified the README file also for my documentation purpose. So here I talked about the project overview. This is very good step. As you want to build some application, you create first an overview of what is the vision you have for building this particular application. I had the vision that I want to build a modern enterprise application for tracking all the feedbacks. Then I want to also collaborate with customers, do innovation, integrate these feedbacks to various business applications, for example, Salesforce, HubSpot, Atlassian, Jira. And I want to build a complete lifecycle management app from feedback to product roadmap. I will be able to build the entire flow for the customers. I want a statistic dashboard. I want data driven decision making so that based on the feedback, the CEO or product managers can take actions. That's why this is dashboard oriented application. This is the primary goal, key objectives, and then who are the end users. My end users are product managers or teams who are engaging with customers. I then defined the persona. I followed the design thinking. I will highly ask you to follow this because these context, as you will be giving to the Lovable app, it will get the context and it will suggest you better features. And it will design these features in a way which will be very usable. Basically, you should understand what's the problem you are solving. So that's why begin with the project overview. What is the goal of your project? This is very important. And then what are the objectives, what you want to achieve with this application. And then you find out who is the target audience, who are the users of your product. So here for my product, it was the product managers, customer support teams, business executives will be viewing the dashboard. Product managers will be looking into each and every feedback and deciding how to deal with them. Maybe they will be clustering multiple feedback. Customer support teams will be engaging with customers and collecting the feedbacks. And also they will be communicating if some of the feedback has been resolved. So all these are important stakeholders. And then definitely the customers. Customers would be entering the feedback either directly or they will be telling the feedback to customer support representative and they will be entering the feedback on behalf of the customer. Next step, once I understand that, okay, these are my personas. So this is a simplified version of all the documentation which I did as part of my research. Personas should also have the profile of the users and you should personify all your users so that you can build empathy to all your users. So I did a detailed research and I created personas, detailed personas, so that I understand the customers because your application is not just there for 1.0. When you build an application, you will be maintaining it for multiple years and enhancing it. And your goal is to make your customer successful. So if you put some images on these personas, then it is easier for you to remember. And when you document all these things, like who is your customer and what kind of person, because the customer, if your product is product for young people, if it's like a social media app, most probably young people will be using it. So then you should be able to relate with the young people, and then your design should be such that should be impressive for that particular segment of people. So you can adapt the taste. So this is one of the best practice of how you build an application which is successful and is liked by your users. Then now coming back, the important part I stored in the GitHub so that it's easier for me to collaborate. And probably if I get more funding and I make it a project, then these will be useful for me to build more features and collaborate with more developers and work in a team environment. This I took care of because that's very important when you start a project. Then these are the documentation which is auto-generated by Lovable. Here they talk about that, okay, what's the code? So they talk about how do you run it. One way to run it is through the app. Other way is you can run directly through in your local machine or you can run it in code spaces. Definitely, this product is not just code which can be run in browser. It's a real application, so you can run it anywhere. Here they have given how to run it directly or run it from GitHub code spaces. And this project is built with White. These are the frameworks which are used: TypeScript, React, Shadson UI. This, so for example, White is for building the application. It is something like NPM, the build tool. Then you have TypeScript. TypeScript is a better version of JavaScript. JavaScript with the type safety. And React is the most popular UI framework. And then Shadson UI is a framework which provides UI components. And then Tailwind CSS is something like Bootstrap, but more customizable than Bootstrap. So you don't need to know all this, but if I felt that at one point, as your application becomes complex, as is in my case now, it has multiple controls, multiple pages. Sometimes you will not be able to, with chat, easily communicate what you want to do. So at this particular stage, if I want to make any changes to UI, now what I do is instead of typing the text as a prompt, I do designing in Figma, build some layout, and then suggest that, okay, please organize this layout as shown is this particular design, which is I will be adding as an image. So this is a great feature as well. In the prompt, you can add here, there is a plus button. You can attach some document. And then these knowledge you can also put in this particular knowledge section of your project. There is an option where you can put the guidelines. So if you have some rules, coding standards, that also you can put. You can also put some documentation in this particular knowledge database. Options to do some settings as well as add some documents. This is all about your interface. Now they have this mobile app as well. You can build a mobile layout also so that all the UI is responsive. Let me show you that particular feature as well. So we have covered Supabase, we have covered GitHub. There are some new features, which is the lab features. In this particular application, we covered about knowledge, we covered about adding attachments to this particular application. And there definitely history is there, and you can connect to a GitHub repository. And you can test your application. For example, now this is an iPad or tablet view, and this is how it will look in mobile apps. You see here, this is fully functional, responsive user interface. Definitely some tweaking, is required, but most of the things works in the different screen sizes, resolution. Yeah, definitely. Maybe I would like to reduce the sizes. This is a work which is for future, but is still no. It is not that okay. I have to start from scratch. It is not 100% responsive, but very close. These adjustments I have to make. For example, I see here this drop down is cutting up on the right side. Sign out button has been hidden. So maybe I have to restructure it. Maybe a left navigation bar I would have to introduce because some of the buttons are missing. But yes, the dashboard's looking good. Some layout adjustments I might have to do. Most of the things, for example, this feedback is also looking good. Maybe some padding adjustments on the right. If I go to my tablet view, everything is perfect here, right? This application is designed for tablets and desktop. Maybe, yeah, not all the use cases are important for mobile. So I may not mind that much for the mobile use case. That could be a second priority. But here, this is your interface for the tablet, and this all you can test in your app itself. This is very convenient. Now coming back, so we have our first version app. Let me come back where we left. Okay, so this is the versions. So we were discussing the code. Code is, so yeah, we were discussing the framework. So also as you build up the application, sometimes you will find that small changes you can do easily manually. So for example, if I have to do some height adjustments, so now in a big screen, doing it with prompt will be very tricky. If I can know the code, I can very easily do it. If I want to change the font or ensure that nothing breaks, this is sometimes easy. So some understanding of these frameworks are important. Definitely a lot of effort is saved if you have to build these applications from scratch. It will take multiple days. And now with this, you can do it in few hours. The site claims that they want to make developers 20 times more productive. This is our review. Exit takes you back to the current version. And I will remove this part if I see the prompt. Then again, I have to scroll to the top of the first prompt. So this is all things which I built one by one. So just a minute, I'm back to the top of the prompt. I will create a complete what we call this time lapse of how the UI was built. But yes, in this session, I'll be covering important aspects. I'll be covering where this tool did really well and where it is struggled. It's not that, okay, all these texts were for building new features. There were a lot of interactions where I was fixing bugs and providing feedback for improving this particular application. So a lot of intelligence is also involved in this project. So yes, once I gave the prompt, it said that, okay, yes, this one I also told that, okay, it should be integrated with all these applications like Salesforce, HubSpot, Zendesk, so that it is aware and it structures the code, some of the components as per these requirements. Then it gave us these ideas that yes, they want modern design. So once you add the prompt, it will give you some suggestions that this is the direction it's thinking. So it acts like a UI designer, or you can say UI designer come developer, and will give you approach that this is the approach, this is the color palette, this is thinking about. And so they will see that this is how what they are thinking. And then it will generate the code, which I showed that this was the first version. So once that code was generated, it also gives you what are the next options. So next option is you have to connect your GitHub account. And then once you connect your GitHub account, then you'll be able to see, you will be able to sync your code in the GitHub. So any changes which I'm doing from now onwards will be also stored in GitHub. So you can always revert this particular code. So this is also very convenient. Now, another thing which I would like to discuss here is during that time, last week, there was an option to use the model. So I could choose any of the models. So let me see if this option is still available. So there was an option that in the project setting, there was option that I could use any of the model, which was, there was three models. One was Claude, and then there was OpenAI GPT-4, and there was Gemini. So I evaluated all three of them, as you might have seen in this particular title of the video session. Okay, these features I will use. So this is a B2B. No, it's business to business, because this is what I will not be selling it to direct users. I will be selling this to CTOs, CEOs. This particular app is an app which will be used for the entire organization. So this is B2B app, and this is a multi-tenant app as well. If something is an internal tool, you may be wondering, you might have seen a lot of internal tools are there in any organization. They don't need to be multi-tenant. That's the difference. A B2B app is a multi-tenant app where when a customer is onboarded, they can create an organization, and the organization's data is stored in isolation with other organizations, and you can store millions or hundreds and thousands of organizations or customer data to this particular app. So this is a B2B app. I marked it like this. And this is the project. If you want to collaborate with other, you can allow remixing, but remixing should not be a database project. So this is a limitation. So this feature cannot be enabled in my case. I can rename the project, can hide the Lovable badge, which I will do, because so that when I publish this, it does not show branding of Lovable. It shows this is something which is, because going forward, I might be doing hand coding as well. So a lot of things are there. So you see here, there was total 146 messages which was required to build this particular app. There was around 94 edits which were needed to be done for this particular app. Definitely last weekend, this app was available for free. There was a AI showdown or a hackathon, because of which, so I was initially careful about the prompts, but then no, I wanted to explore various features as well. So I played around with it, but you might build this particular app maybe in maybe 20-30% less prompts. So still it is, if 130 prompts you are using or 120 prompts you are using, it will cost you somewhere around, you can think of like for every 4 prompts, you will spend $1 as a license fee. So for 120 prompts, you may be expending around $30, which is not that expensive for getting that much out. Because if you hire a developer, they will definitely charge much more than $30. They will maybe charge you $10,000 for building something like that. Definitely, you get more than 20x improvement with cost saving and also time saving as well. This is all the things which I had for this particular app. So yeah, let's talk about building the database. So this is what, okay, before that, I would also like to show you that since 3 different models were available, I tried other models as well. The other models which were available was, let me go to the home page again because there are separate projects available for that. Yeah, both the URLs are fine. You may type in Lovable.dev or Lovable.app. It will take you to the home page. And one good feature is that it remembers what was your last prompt. So even if I did not execute, I'm in the middle of drafting the prompt, I can leave and do something else. And when I come back later, maybe after a few days also, this will remember what was last thing which I did. So now I gave the same prompt, my initial prompt, to OpenAI, which was using GPT-4 model. And this is what it generated. It generated a UI which looks like something like this. This still had 4 cards for positive, issue, neutral feedback. It had the feedback button, new feedback button. It's also did a decent job. And this was more looking like an enterprise app, you know, something which we get from SAP or Oracle. You have these tables where you have the customer name, type, and it also filled up this particular app was pre-populated with some sample data. So you look, know how the design will be in the real use case. This is what was generated by OpenAI. And then same thing, I tried the Gemini. So let me show you for Gemini. How was the code? How was the UI? Let me come back and open another window. And now if I show you the Gemini version, I'll share all these versions in the chat message so that you can view them later. This is what is generated by Gemini. It's again a different kind of UI. Some of the concepts were same, like you have these cards, and then you have the add new feedback form, which is on the left side. This is also very good classic pattern for UI layout, where you have this, you can enter new feedback, have here the different cards, or it looks like a chat history, all the feedbacks on the right side. So these are the 3 different design which was generated by all these 3 models. So I also looked into all these designs, considered the pros and cons, and then finally decided which to proceed further with. I have written an article about this, published in Medium. See, I will also paste this in the chat message so that you can also look into this article where I have described in detail all these different kinds of user interfaces, their positives and negatives, and then why I chose this. Right. This is the comparison I did for all the 3 user interfaces, which was generated by the Lovable app using different models, which were Anthropic Cloud, OpenAPI GPT, Google Gemini. So, as I was saying that I was building enterprise application, a SaaS product, software as a service product, and I evaluated all 3 of these as a hiring manager planning to recruit, and 3 different personalities, Claude, GPT-4, and Gemini. They came up with different outputs, and this is the output which was generated by GPT. I had a lot of expectations with the GPT. It came up with this particular. You see here, they used a table, and there wasn't anything impressive. I felt that this was doing the job well. And there was some open spaces. It's looking not that much professional. And also there was table. This is, very basic, I felt. And no filters, no search. So here may be good for enterprise application, but then I felt this won't build anything impressive. It's not looking modern, sleek. Although the prompt said that if you're building any existing add-on to SAP, Oracle, this is a great thing to start. Depending on your audience, how's the taste of your audience with respect to user interface, you may want to use it. But I felt that yes, something better could have been done. With respect to space efficiency, very good. Not too much of space is wasted. Everything was like direct. You have the name, which is direct, and you have here the subtitle: seamlessly track and manage customer feedback for your enterprise. And then you have the same dashboard cards at the top. It and then you have this table with 4 elements. Also, the timing is the way it is done in the log files. So yeah, here is ISO formatting, not in any user app, a business user app. Generally would prefer 2 hours ago, yesterday, 1 day back, 2 day back, something like that, which is more human friendly. So this is what was the output from ChatGPT. And then we had Gemini. Gemini had felt that, okay, it did better than ChatGPT. It put the cards at the top, layout, everything is structured well. So it put add new feedback form automatically on the left side. Classic pattern of enterprise applications with minimal clicks. So you don't have to click on add new feedback button to open this particular form. It's always there for you to enter these feedbacks, and these feedbacks are shown with the user-friendly timestamps like 3 days ago, 1 day ago. And also this is looking like nice cards, chat history, looking very interactive. So I found this very user-friendly. But yes, the coloring was black and gray mostly. But yes, this was also promising. But overall, I felt that, okay, it's also intuitive, easy to use. So all these points I have described here in this post. So we'll not go into that detail. And then finally, Anthropic Claude, here that they put some name by themselves, good layouts looking very modern, and shadows and different color coding. I felt that this is today's business users would definitely, and for startups who want to impress the customers, this is better, because with others, it was feeling like, okay, any other application would have done it. Already, many applications like Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, they are building such interfaces. So nothing great about these two. But then I felt that this is, my opinion, is standing out. And if I build it further on this, definitely something very impressive could be built. So I took this particular design and built further on it. Right? So again, the same columns, layout, we have the top card. Then I was not sure about how is this feedback. I played around with it. Then you saw that the feedback was also in the form of list. And they designed the zero state. So here you see there are no feedbacks, but still the UI is looking filled. There is the encouraging message saying that start collecting valuable customer insights by adding your first feedback entry. So it's inviting, it is welcoming. I like this design philosophy of not saying that, sorry, no feedback available, or could not found any feedback, no such error or critical remarks, but it is an encouragement saying that start collecting valuable feedback and generate insights by adding your first entry. So definitely, this was looking promising. Tropic Claude is a model which is also in limelight because it does a lot of thinking. So with this impressive output, I decided that I'll go along with it. And then finally something like this, I built up, even I have improvised this, because you see there were some flaws as I built up further, that this is the add feedback button is twice. So all that corrections I did, something was broken, but yes, I fixed gradually. So that's why it took me long. But if I have to summarize, I see that Gemini built it differently. I would say it's like hiring a high potential innovator. No, it's a UI developer. If you think of Gemini for this project, what I was evaluating with, it is definitely coming up with different approach, generates a good idea and shows decent creativity because its UI was different than the remaining two. And as you see here, I have filters, searches as well. So this is also great. Claude is a friendly designer. So it designs zero state UX, human friendly messages. The emotional warmth is there. It's welcoming for first time users and non technical audience. So that's why I decided to build further on it. Yeah. So this is the different comparison which I did on all three different models. Let me show all of them now. So this is my current version of app, which I call is very close to minimum viable product. And this I have to put in some landing page and I can start asking users to use it and can also ask them to enroll in trial period and offer subscription based membership for this particular app for various organizations. So this is almost ready. Here you have the date timestamp, you have these feedback, sentiments, everything coming up in a nicely formatted manner. So this is what I got finally. But yes, initially it was much lesser with respect to so just coming to history, the first version it generated, this is what I showed up in the blog. And when I compare it with this feedback manager generated by OpenAI, this is what was generated by OpenAI. And when I come to Gemini, this is what is generated by Gemini. So this is difference. If you are looking to generate more ideas, have some user testing done, Gemini is suitable. If you want to build some enterprise class application, users are not liking colorful UI. They want very professional looking interface with least amount of space wastage. ChatGPT is good. And, but yeah, if you want something which is very attractive, standing out for startup kind of company, I would suggest Anthropic Claude would be more suitable. And code analysis also I have done and a generation of code. I will share that insights as well. But yes, on the journey aspect, let me share you how the journey was and how this particular UI was able to scale when I used Anthropic and built further on that. So next thing was probably, yeah, here I started adding the database project. So here at project overview, so basically I'm adding personas and refining it to look like personas. Basically, not too much of changes in the UI, but yes, I'm capturing. So you start with an set of features. So initial feature was a dashboard and add feedback button. Then I give the project overview that this is my goal. These are the personas I want to target. So I had customer persona and then it started improvising on it. So here, not much adjustments have been done here, but for later it is building this knowledge. Now I added the feature specification, gave it more features, 15 features. And this is what, and then I felt, okay, this is just for the context purpose, and then we'll build further step by step. But let's connect to the database and authentication system. So I connected, I created a Supabase project, which is another application, which is a partner application for building backend services. Here you can create an org, you can create new projects as well. For different applications, you can have different projects. You may also have multiple applications talking to the same database. For example, in my case, if I extend this particular application and build more applications for different personas, I will still be using the same database, right? This is what I would say is for persona, which is product manager. Product manager would like to look into the big picture, want to understand what's the overall sentiment, and then he may also want to look into the specifics of each and every feedback, might have to improvise on any of the data entry which has been entered here. The product manager will be interested in both overall feedback as well as individual feedback in detail. They may also want to use search feature. For example, I may search for something like if I'm looking for, say, report, what are the feedbacks which is about reporting feature. So here you see it does search on the description, says that there is report. And maybe somewhere here also this word should have been there. Report. So in further details, maybe this report is there. Let's look into this feedback in detail. Yeah, you see here reports there. So that's why this particular message has come up in the search results. You can search by word. You can search by customer name. Say, for example, I have a customer. So Priya Mehta, Priya Kulkarni, these are the people with name. So I can search with customer name. I can search by company. Definitely all the text fields are searchable. So for example, if I say you, hi, this company is getting listed. Or I can technology. If I'm looking for technology company, something like that. Yeah. Now, next thing is I can search email as well. For example, the days and the rate, something like that. If it's there in email, it will also be matching. This is suitable for product manager. This is suitable. Yeah, it's suitable for everyone because it's have everything. But yes, for CEO, he may not want to make into individual customer feedback. He may only be interested in this particular dashboard and maybe more charts, some more refinement could be there, specific to each of the use case. But yes, customer executive, he will be interested in entering all these details, updating it. Product managers may not be allowed to edit these feedback. Some of the fields they may edit. For example, they may tags, they may modify feedback type, etc., but limited control. But yes, customer executive could do all the changes. So yeah, with the role-based management, these things can be controlled. Or you may build more use cases where you can have a UI which will be creating these list of tags. For now, I have allowed only predefined list of tags. So all these 5 tags are available. You may add more as customization through database. But yes, definitely you can have you can have a UI to update these tags, and this can be controlled by separate set of users. So this is the version of this is what the current version of the app is. So I connected the project to Supabase project. Then I have authentication implemented. So let me show you how does it work. So you have this login button, and if you click, you have the login here with username and password. So basically you put in your username and then password, and it will allow you to log in. And if it's invalid credential, not allow you to log in. This is what the user interface for login, logout was. So this is what I implemented. It was connected to Supabase authentication, and all things happened very smoothly. So no problems in that. Then I added social logging. I said, I want to log in with different providers, authentication providers. So Google, GitHub, Twitter, all these were available. So this is the next enhancement which I did. So also all these can be configured very easily. Google could be configured using the Google Cloud. So this is also very easy to customize. I will write separate blog post for how to do this integration separately because there are a lot of details, not a lot of details, but considerable number of details because you have to ensure that there is no course issue cross origin request because yes, you have to specify that the JavaScript domain and your domain for authentication because here you are communicating with Lovable domain, which is this tool which is generating the application, communicating with Supabase database and the authentication provider, which is maybe Google. So yeah, integration is slightly tricky, but yes, can be learned in few hours. Then I created the database tables. So next thing was because now authentication was in place, but the data was not getting stored because everything was in the UI only. So this particular tool builds the app in this way, like it creates the user interface first, then it creates the database, which is a nice approach. I see that because if you start with the database, sometimes you don't have full clarity about what all interfaces you may need. So you may more columns, tables, database design may not be optimized to the use case. And if you are building something which is on short time frame, if something you are building where the deadline is very less or there is not liberty of having extended deadlines, then this approach works because then you build the most important part first and you get this feedback also fast. So this you can show to product managers, your customers, the stakeholders and get feedback and improvise it faster. Once you have in a decent shape, you can start building the database. But yes, delay too much also because otherwise you have a lot of things done in the UI. Database is not ready. You may not find some issues which are with respect to usability. Because when you play around with some working solution, it is a different experience than how you deal with mock data. One such example is zero stage UI. So then I built up a login page because then I felt that, okay, when you have a login and if customer is not logged in, then you would need a auth page, login page. So next thing is I built up a login page. This definitely could be further improvised, but still it's decent. You have the branding here, the name of the app and some tagline, and then you have this sign in button. So this is your sign in page, and then you can sign up as well. For new users and for existing users, they can sign in. And these options there via Google, GitHub, and Twitter. Now, yeah, definitely all these UIs can be improved further. For example, icons could be added and this could be made more compact. But this is what you get by default generated from Supabase. While I was doing this particular app, there were few errors which was no somehow the sign out was not working, login was working. Sometimes the Google login was not working. So there were few features which I felt was broken and they were not working out of the box. So a little bit of tweaking. But all this I did by giving the prompts. So I did not do any manual coding. You can do it, but for authentication and the framework, which is Supabase, I wasn't aware of it previously. So I decided to use the prompts, and which is, I believe, is advisable. You see here few messages, 4, 5 messages I spent for fixing the logging errors. So sometimes the logging is working. I would also give you one best practice. Here you see this open in an iframe within your Lovable app, but you can launch it as a separate window as well. So when I click on the up arrow button, it opens up in the separate window. So it's advisable you test the login as a separate window instead of just within iframe, because sometimes there are differences in functionality, what works within an iframe and what works outside the iframe as a separate window. And you can test also different kinds of login approach. Say, for example, here, sign in with Google. It was sign in. You see, it was working well. There was flicker. Initially, I was getting signed out also. Sometimes sign out was not working, but finally, with few more prompts, I got this fixed. Then next stage is also once your application is in decent shape, publish it, and once the app is published, you may have to test it again because in publish the URL changes. So sometimes some configuration might not be perfect. That is what I would advise, that use this application, test it thoroughly for different scenarios or environments. Now coming back is once I build this landing page, I improvised it further. I felt that okay, signing button just on this blank page and then moving to a different page altogether would have been a bad user experience. So why not just open the login page there itself? So this is a UI flow, which I felt there was one click extra. Why not open the login page by default? So this is what feedback I provided. And this was done after the Google sign-in was working. Definitely the API keys would be needed. You have to enable all these authentications as well. I felt one is good enough. So I just tested on the error messages, sign out flow, also test that when you implement sign in, you have to also see sign up is also working and users are getting persistent in the database. So this was not happening. There was some error, so I fixed that as well, which was about storing the users in the database. So this is the problem with the AI. You have to explicitly say everything, because if I say that implement sign in, sign up functionality, it will implement, but may not implement the persistence functionality of user accounts. So this seems very obvious to humans, but you have to sometimes explicitly tell to machines. So here is a difference, that when you are working with someone who is a human colleague, you may just say that implement sign in and sign up functionality. Automatically they will understand that yes, the new accounts needs to be stored in the database, but similar things may not sometimes be obvious to machines. And then you have to instruct in these two statements, implement the sign up button, sign in button, and upon sign in, and when users say register or sign up, whatever is the UI term which you are using, is store the user information in the database so that he can sign in again at later point of time. So basically, this is how you have to detail the prompt. But yes, if you are good in writing specifications, then you will worry, you don't have more problems. But yes, as I was moving ahead with implementation, I was seeing some more problems coming on, you know, as side effects. So for human developers also, this is the case. When you build a feature, sometimes features, while developing features or while delivering, you get bugs for free. Same is true with the AI coders as well. When AI coders are coding, because they are trained on human code only. So they do the same problems. They have same tendency of giving you some bugs for free with every features. And sometimes when you ask them to fix one feature, they will introduce another feature, another bug. So sometimes some bug fixing might replace one bug with the other bug. So you have to be really careful. So you have all the same flaws which are there in human coders, plus some more flaws in machines, AI, which are specific to machine coding. So you have to deal with both of them. So as a person who is supervising this development, either you are a manager or an architect, you have to be a little bit extra careful. That I got some errors resolved. So somehow, some, because I wanted to understand the APIs good enough so that I can extend it. Right? I was feeling, let me see that the backend is stable or not. The next stage which I did was I created a database design. I ensured that normalization were in place. And then I moved on to ensure that the APIs are also designed properly because you're dealing with machine and you want to ensure that everything is done efficiently, effectively. So I asked this particular tool to also generate API documentation because I might look into the documentation, but later again, if I want to refer the APIs, it is sometimes very tedious to look into the source code and try to figure it out. What's the API which is being exposed? So I generated an API documentation. And this is also as per your API first design. Faster you get the APIs published, easier it is to partner with more teams. Sometimes external parties also might be interested in building add-ons or extensions to your app. So having the API is well defined is very important. Then created the API. This is what I was in the process of generating API documentation. There were a few errors which got introduced. So I got it resolved. Again, everything was with the help of the prompts, nothing with manual coding. 100% of the app which I generated was based on prompts. There were few manual tweaks which I did, but that too was with the WYSIWYG functionality, which is there in Lovable itself, which I will talk and walk through later. It's also very interesting and useful feature. For some of the UI changes, you can change it in the CSS by just modifying things as you do sometimes Chrome developer tools. So something like that, you can do it in Lovable as well. And for any number of minor changes, they don't charge you any credits. So this is a great feedback which they worked upon, which they get from initial adapters of these tools. So now I fixed some YAML issues which were coming while generating the Swagger documentation. And I applied these changes, applied some more SQL, created more tables. Then it needs some migration as well. So this is great that all your database modifications are also tracked through migration scripts. Migration scripts are SQL scripts which you run to update the tables or more rows or remove some additional column, etc. Any database changes which you have to do. I analyze the database design also in this phase, ensure that it is normalized properly. It didn't normalized everything well. So I gave some feedback and optimized the database design, and that would have improved the performance. Added some indexes as well, because when the customer records, they will increase, then the performance becomes very critical. But yes, once you do these changes, it will ask you that are you fine with these SQL queries? So basically, when you are doing any database changes, you have to give a prompt the tool will suggest that this is the SQL query we should run to incorporate the changes. And then you will have to approve the SQL and then only it execute. This is again a nice feature, and all these things are executed in Supabase. So you can do that same from Supabase itself. Here, if I go inside my project, so there are database, and here on the left side, we have the database editors. So either you can create the database tables through the prompt, or you can create directly from the Supabase. And you can say, you see here, there's a new table. They also have an assistant here, which is a chat client, which you can again instruct using chat prompts, and it will do the database operations for you. This is also very handy tool. Here you see all the records. These are getting stored here, and there are customers feedbacks. Then these are the tags. Should have tags. And see here, only IDs are being put here. This normalization with very much care, because I wanted to build something which is production ready, no redundancy of data. Here you see this the type of feedback types again stored in the database. Definitely, it makes this UI more customizable. And feedback with details, and then there is tags. Tags should be the tags which are generated and which are being used by default. This is the data. You will see, I see there are some data which is unused, might be unused, or more types are there, but not all types are being used, because I used a concept which is called a system organization. And whenever there is a new organization which is getting created, the tags will be added for particular organization, because from organization to organization, you might want different tags. There needs to be some extension mechanism. Here you need extensibility, not customizability. So this is a very important point for enterprise developers. So for example, feedback types. This is something which should be customizable. That means I might define for my product that there are few feedback types. This is just an example. For example, I have a positive feedback, issue, neutral, basically positive, negative, neutral. These are the three different feedback types. And this is same for all kinds of customers, right? Whether the customer is a product customer or service customer, feedback would be positive, negative, or neutral. But some things are not same for all the customers. Here, if I want to have more feedback types, maybe if you want, say, super positive or super negative, that all you can customize, right? So if you want to have priorities here, you may want to customize it like positive, high, positive, low, all that you can do customization. And when you do it, it will be available to all your customers. But yeah, some features are extensions. For example, tags. I might want for my industry, so for example, if I am a service company working on marketing, I might want, okay, have one tag which is issue regarding customer interaction, which may not be required for any other company. So in that case, this is extensibility. To make this particular application extensible, I have designed it in a way that we can extend the database tables, and it will ensure that different organizations will have different set of tags. This is about the users. You may create users in different organizations. Different organizations may have different admins also. These are user table and the profile table. This is all about the database design which is there. You see here, there are views as well. Views are for fast data access. This is there. But yes, we have to take care about security. That is something I will cover later or in upcoming sessions. So this is the database design. These database designs are there in this particular tool, and we can visualize these database designs as well. And then it will give you an SQL editor so that you can perform various queries, edit SQL. So if I want to do some database query, play around with the data, I can do that as a database administrator. A lot of great features, and you see here when you look into the database, it gives you the diagrammatic view of the database also, which shows various foreign key relationships as well. Very well. Visual thing is very easy to grasp, and this can be reviewed very quickly by any architect, and any suggestions for database optimization can be incorporated. Different layouts are there, and you can. So this is a great tool for building database. You have schema visualizer, tables. So we can see all the tables. You see here, I put this table in different normal forms. Then there are database functions. These are like triggers, validations. Any validations which you have to do, you can do it with this function triggers. Triggers are called automatically when some operation is done. Functions are just functions which can be called even with the SQL query. But yes, this will help you to modularize your business logic and reuse some of the SQL code. Then you have enumeration types and a lot of other features are there. Extensions are there. So you see here, I have enabled GraphQL extension so you can make GraphQL queries. This is for easy REST API call, easy filtering, because I have implemented filtering and searching. So it's very good to have GraphQL implemented. Then PG catalog schema. This is a procedural language, procedural language for PG SQL, like PL SQL is there for Oracle. Similar is there. There's a extension which is called Index Advisor, and this will monitor the execution of queries, and based on the query execution, it will suggest what indexing I should keep. This is again a great tool, and it's a very initial stage. That's why you see that version is 0.2.0. But yes, it gives you good insights about what more indexing you can do. Sometimes systems can generate better suggestions than human, because it's all about looking into the data. I have enabled this for that reason. Then if all my IDs are view IDs, because for multi-tenant environment, even if you use generators, you may have collision. So basically, unique IDs I have used is through UUID. Then there is encryption because I'm storing username passwords. So there is PG crypto. This is for cryptographic functions. So these are various extensions which are there in the database. Then indexes, all these database indexes have been created. This is about public subscribe mod. Then there is replication. So here some replication is also scheduled. We were exploring different features of Supabase. So here you have roles, access controls. This for authentication, roles and policies. This is about the user. You can create user, you can add providers. For example, Google, there is a lot of providers which are supported. So you have here email authentication. Whenever some new sign up happens, you have to verify the email. I may phone verification. There's SAML, Web3 wallet, a lot of other options are there to enable various different kinds of authentication, which is great. But yes, I have used only the Google authentication, which is the most popular one. I felt that going forward, this could be enhanced further. In MVP, it's very important to decide what is your priority one features, because you may have a list of, say, 20, 25 features, but then I decide that I implement these important features, which is first few features to get this product really ready to be rolled out, and then gradually I can improve on it based on the customer feedbacks and requirements. User session management, everything you can also analyze. There's rate limiting, which you can also put it. Multi-factor authentication is also there. So everything is as per the enterprise requirements. So this is definitely great tool to implement a lot of features which is there for building enterprise applications. Then you have something called edge functions. Edge functions I found is either like microservices or serverless applications where I can put some code. It will execute the code. This is all JavaScript code, which is right now supported. So my AI related logic, for example, auto tagging feed, what happens with this particular function? This is the code for running the auto auto tagging, auto correction, right? Yes. As you can see, for model, I have used this one. There are some prompts which have to be put in and have requested information back in JSON formatting. This is how I'm making calls and getting inputs from OpenAI. Keys is stored in environment variable, is not exposed for security reasons. So this is about the backend for this particular application. Others using much, but yes, there are all features available. Pretty good amount of features are available in this particular app. Let's just look into the prompts which I gave for building this app as well, because we looked into the flow from UI perspective, how the UI was evolving. But let me also show you how the prompts and response from the AI system was building the application. I'll be showing you for few, and then we'll proceed further about the flow or journey of getting this particular application built. I was going through the prompt history, how this application was built. We'll see if there is an export option of getting all the prompts outside in some file and then sharing it with everyone. That is convenient because the scrolling is also, this uses infinite scrolling. I can't go to the top in one go, and whenever I'm refreshing this page, the scrolling is again required because it scrolls you to the most recent conversation. So the older conversations are getting hidden on top. So this is running the app on the separate tab, and same, this is running on the iframe, and on left we have this chat history. Yeah, this one is my first prompt where I said that, okay, build this particular app, give these features, that did that. Then we connected the Supabase. Then I told it to document some of these inputs which I provided, which I shared earlier in this session, that when you are starting to build any application, if you have some coding guidelines, that also could be fed. Then I also started updating this in GitHub, because in the README files, you can put in the feature specification, because after a few days, I might forget all these details. And some of the details are very important, and which is there that particular time frame. So as a best practice, what I do is always keep capturing, as you're developing your application, some of the important points in the README document. Sometimes you get some design insights, some implementation details, all this. If you down, keep updating in the README file, it will help you. And also when I encounter any error, and if I do any troubleshooting, and if I have resolved this error either by finding out the solution over internet or through some documentation, that also I capture it so that if I receive the same problem again, I'll be able to do it faster. So same thing I did here. Then I did so here I did all the documentation, details about rating, limiting, error handling, etc. Then added information about security. I was exploring about what could be done with the Supabase. If there are multiple options, which is the best option for my application? There was some discussion. Chat option is also there in the Lovable here. So when you say chat, you can have a conversation with this application, and it will not modify and update the code. And when you switch off this, we have to be careful because if you say something, it will modify the code. This is important thing to be taken care of. Please connect my database to the project. And this I did. Then I'm connecting the database to my project and also asking step-by-step instruction how to do it, because some of the steps you can do within this particular interface of Lovable app, but some things you have to do in Supabase if you have the backend as Supabase. So now I see maybe in future they may support multiple backends, but yes, right now only Supabase is supported. So I just asked about what are the features are there and how will I build the backend logic. I have added authentication. When I add authentication, then you have to database tables, because I also wanted to capture the profile information for the users. So for example, for profile, I want full name of the website, what was the update time, some of the profile information you can put in. Mean website may store maybe LinkedIn address of customers, LinkedIn profile ID or Facebook ID or whatever, their website, etc. These are various profile information for users. Database queries, basically database queries. And these database queries, it asks for permission, execute. And once you give this execute permission, this database query is executed. Database was ready and all other features are there. So basically, you see here, this is connecting or Google. So a lot of interaction you have to do because it asks for a lot of things and you have to share. This is how you want the application to be designed. So it's not that everything is done automatically. You have to keep advising, finding and optimizing whatever is being generated. Now, coming back here in the history, so I will move further. So then once I got this basic version, from very initial stage, I said that we want organization as another table and want to incorporate multi-tenancy, because later it is always difficult to adapt the database and make it multi-tenant. So I advise this particular application to generate the tables as per multiple tenants. It did a decent job, created the tables so that they can be multi-tenant. And yes, as you see in my application, the tables are multi-tenant. So feedbacks one entered for one organization is not visible to other organization. And user can create multiple organizations because you might have users who are working in multiple organizations. For example, if they are consultants, they may be managing feedbacks for multiple organizations. So this is all about adding foreign key relationships. Then I asked for the database design. And so here you see foreign key relationships between tables should be defined. And they should also provide all these details about what kind of relationship is there. Because should I have one user having multiple organizations? So sometimes you may want to analyze, discuss, refine that design. So here, a lot of conversation was about database design, optimizing, and working on the right structure for columns, tables, views, ensuring the security of the database. So here I said that we implement normalization. So they implemented the normalization, or they shared about what are the benefits and what's the approach database took. This is great. So this is all conversation. So I would say most of the conversation which I was having was around database in the initial phases of the app development. Yes. Now going further here. So there is something called RLS policy, which is also very important. This talks about what kind of users are allowed to access what kind of data. So here RLS policy settings, there were some errors which had to be fixed upon that. Thank you. I see one message from Devil's Eye. So he's appreciating the work. So thank you. Very encouraging to know about that. So yes, as I'm sharing you one invite code for Lovable, and anytime feel free to connect with me, message me if you face any problems in working with this particular app. If you have decided to build some applications using Lovable and you have any doubts or you get stuck somewhere or you want some advice on what's the best way to do it, definitely you can feel free to connect with me. So here, next important feature which I will share to you is let me sign in here. Let me sign in with Google. One important interesting feature is, as I was saying that, okay, first build a database and now this app is there with database. And then I felt that, okay, we should also have the documentation for all the APIs which I'm using. So let me share you that API documentation. It's also generated automatically because as I've worked with large organizations like Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, I know the importance of database and I built this app thinking that I will be creating a SaaS product out of it and it would be like my startup. So decided to do the documentation as well. So here Supabase automatically provides the database APIs for you. So here you see row level security policies. This is RLS policies, which I was talking about. So very professional documentation, which was using Swagger, was generated. And this will document all the REST APIs. So here in the database API, for each of the tables, you see here, there are documentation which shares about what are the headers, so various functions, views, how to access them, how to call them. And as I said, this is a Swagger documentation which is generated. So here we have to authorize by pasting the token API key. Once we have this token and API key entered here, we can play around with these APIs. So for example, I have this get organization API. So if someone wants to extend this particular application through these API interfaces, they can build and enhance. They can build mobile apps. They can different kind of interactions on this particular app. So here, this is all about the APIs. So this is all. I've structured the documentation in this two way. One is the database APIs. Database APIs deals with the doing CRUD operations on tables, calling database functions, views. All this is all database APIs. On the other side, business APIs are multi-tenant organization support, customer management, feedback lifecycle. So this is more from business perspective because these APIs will be one top level APIs on database APIs. For example, get user organization, get current session, create organization, switch organization, get organization feedback, submit feedback. So these are all wrappers over these database APIs, which will allow you to do some operations as per the use cases. So this is more important. Business APIs are more important because this is what mostly people will use high level, and database level you may not expose everything for security reasons, because not everyone should be allowed to update each and every tables, because this may result in inconsistent data. So your business API should be good enough, and this should the interface which is exposed to external parties. Database APIs only share it with trusted parties, and they should be aware of what they are doing. So these are some of the system design principles, important technical things which you have to take care. Although the code is generated by machine, but you have to take care of all the code generators. So this is all UI handling. Let me go further. So I built up the UI, login, multi-tenancy. The next thing was I built the tagging feature. This was the feature, as I said, it is done to be extensible feature because different customers might have requirements for having different tags. I don't want users to create new tags, because if you allow users to add custom tags, too many tags, they end using so many variations of tags. The purpose of tags becomes, I would say, no, purpose is lost. So this is what I was playing around. So I felt initially, let me allow custom tags, and then finally made a mind that we should not allow custom tag. We should only have system generated tags. So these all versions I was making were about having tagging optimized. There were some errors which were getting introduced when I was doing tagging. So I was fixing them. Mostly the bug fixing which I was doing was again describing in proper English through prompt to AI that what you want, and then AI will be generating this. So basically, based on your prompt, AI will be correcting the code if they have made some bugs or mistakes in their code generation. And then sometimes, yeah, there were some modifications which were required, because when I added custom tags, there were more tables and columns which were introduced. When I decided not to go ahead with the custom tags, then I removed these by running SQL migration. So I added, so the SQL migration jobs were generated by Lovable itself. So improving the search performance, this is what also had to take care of. That search should be fast. Then also improving the look and feel. So here you see sentiment badges. I was optimizing UI. So here, even though I was doing visual edits, build up the landing page also, because then I felt just having the login page, I might want to have business website. So this is a placeholder right now, but yeah, I might have here a complete business website and then a sign in button to get started. So that's what, and definitely when people want to get started, I want to first get them a demo or a trial account and then offer them subscriptions. So this is something I can put in this particular page with AI, that is very easy. Payment is something which again, apps where like what kind of right analytics should be put, what kind of time frame to be used, a little adjustment of the styling, because this layout you see here at the top, we have 4 columns, and then it turns out to be 3 column here, because this particular distribution, tag distribution over time is taking a lot of space. And then this feedback volume with respect to their day. So this is giving you the trend of feedback organization is receiving. So different kinds of cards for these charts was decided, then put in. I have to tell how to lay out because this particular app was messing up because yes, is they may not build up everything aligned. So a little bit of up and down of these cards were there in the initial design. It was very difficult for me to make adjustments with chat prompts. So here, as I shared, I attached Figma. I drew a very rough prototype of how I want the UI to be look like. Then this adjustments by asking AI to follow the design as per the attachment and make the adjustments. So in multiple attempts, it was able to do because from the image also it was not able to get exactly because the mockup which I provided was a low fidelity mockup. Maybe taking a screenshot, defining everything, labels, that would take more effort, but that would something advisable. So yeah, if you are building some app which will have multiple controls and multiple layouts, I would advise start with this Figma prototype, create the UI design in Figma or any other tool which you prefer, generate an image out of it, and then give this tool this design saying, please generate UI as per the design, and then it will be able to do it. Now, other thing is once it will be doing these things, and if you want to do some adjustments, which I did, changing some of the labels because this was called feedback. So if I suppose want to make this change, so this is very important thing. I would ask everyone to pay attention. This is very useful feature and it saved a lot of credits. So you save a lot of cost by using this feature. Not everyone is aware of this is the edit. So this edit functionality is UI edit functionality. You can do it for free. So here, when you click on edit, then you can see here some kind of grid here. Let's say it's a starting preview, live preview. So yeah, it's refreshing. So it's like Chrome developer mode. So you can select some UI element and then fix that by choosing it. Right? So you see here now buttons and all are getting selected, and then you see here this CSS kind of editing screen where I can put here classes, Tailwind classes. So little bit in understanding of Tailwind is good because Tailwind CSS framework is very different from Bootstrap. Generally, people are familiar with Bootstrap. So yeah, Tailwind is different. It's more modern and more flexibility. So if you know that, then you will be able to edit it very fast. So this can be used to adjust the width and height of various elements, add padding, etc. Or change the labels. So for example, if this particular field I have, I want to rename it. So I can change the label here. I can change the color also like this. So font color can be changed here. So a lot of changes can be done without spending any of your credits here. Font weight, for example, I might want to make this bold. So this makes it bold. Change the color back black. So all this. And then don't forget to hit the save if you're okay with this change. For example, if I'm fine with making this as bold, then I should say save. Otherwise, I should say discard. Because sometimes showing this with the prompts is difficult, but yes, if you have things which is easy to be pointed out and corrected by editing, this tool is very helpful. So this is only valid for static text changes. And if some label is coming from some API or database, then you can't change it with the help of this particular tool. Then you have to use one prompt. So if you want to give any prompt here, you can also give a prompt here. Say for example, let me show you here this thing. I've selected this button and I will say add Google. logo for this button. So this is another way of giving the command. This will cost me 1 credit. So almost like 25 cents lost. I say that, okay, add Google logo for this button. Now what it's doing is it is updating the code and it will update with the Google icon. So now you are seeing this particular tool in live action, because till now I was always sharing generated code which was done previously, but now you see it has added the Google logo. So maybe clap for this. And I have enabled a sound also, because sometimes it takes few minutes to take this, build the code and generate the code. So now got very good looking sign in button. So same I can do with the other screens. I can go inside other screens and use this edit option. Then it will edit the required element, and that you can modify it as per your wish by either giving a prompt. If it requires code changes, then you will be charged for it. But if you don't, if you just want to change some static text, then it is very straightforward, like editing in the form. Okay, this feature is in beta. Looks like it's not that responsive, and now it's not working for this screen, but yeah, it worked flawlessly for the login page. But yes, this adjustment, this alignment, I got it by using this edit tool, because it's very difficult to say that, okay, in second column, first. So there could be some misinterpretation. But yes, initially I was saying that, okay, align the bottom edges of all these cards, align. But yes, this was not properly done. With this particular edit tool, it is done properly. So yeah, this is overall app. Let me just see what else is there. Discuss. So basically, here most of the conversation was fine tuning the database, making things working. Definitely, yeah, important part was AI feature. So yes, OpenAI integration was also very straightforward. It is again through the Supabase. So in the Supabase, I have to provide the API key. So that was also done flawlessly with the help of prompts in this particular application. So let me demonstrate that. So when updating any feedback, so for example, here I am just updating one feedback which is already populated in this app. So here it says this is our essential part of our decision making process. So here this has saved us countless hours. So if I say highly recommend for agile teams, this particular this feedback, if I make any changes, I say that highly recommended for agile teams, but I would say traditional teams might not like it. Right? Something I'm just modifying to show you the sentiment analysis. So for example, right now it is a very positive message with 80% positive rating. Now I will run the sentiment analysis. Then I want the rating comes down to 70%. Tags will also added automatically here. So this all integration is what will help organizations analyze analyze all these messages. And definitely a lot of possibilities are there. For example, I might summarize all the feedbacks, display a summary in a separate card. So that is another feature which maybe I would like to do next version of this particular application. So this is all the features about this, and this is how. So basically, what I would say, initially I was skeptical about that this tool be used to build something which is production grade, which is something which can be used by enterprise customers. But yes, now working on it, and then as I was able to build fully functional app, Now, having this opinion, yes, this is possible that we can build something which is enterprise grade and ready for production. And if someone is looking to start a startup as an enterprise, I also learned one new term which is called indie hacker. That means independent hacker who don't have a team. A single person can build complete app by themselves. So you don't need different skill sets like front-end developer, backend developer, or designer. But yes, you should understand the product management. You should understand, you should have some understanding of architecture. Yes, it's something you also need to have an understanding of programming because as your application very complex. So until now, I was able to build all the features without coding, without writing code. But going forward, I would like to look into the code also. Yeah, this is important thing I would cover now is how to modify this code in some IDE. So yeah, let's go to the generated code because this is also thing very important we should know. So here, whatever changes you are making, it gets synced to a GitHub repository. So you can associate your GitHub account, GitHub organization project with this particular project in Lovable. And then all the updates are done with GitHub. So any changes is done is automatically committed in GitHub. So if I show the commit history, then this will be apparent that, okay, these are the code changes, which is, so for example, you see here Lovable.dev bot. This is the user which is making changes. There were 114 commits. So yeah, these are the commits. And these commits are also commits with the messages. So there is descriptive messages, which is great thing. It's doing following all the best practices. So here they have saved for this save and edit tags for feedback, save tags when creating new feedback, allow editing of tags in edit field, edit form, and all that messages are very descriptive. And then these changes are being done. And code is also absolutely same as written by some human developer. So I didn't saw that any variable name which is very cryptic. Everything is readable. So code is very readable because I've been working with various code generators and since many years, more than 10 years, I would say I would be using code generator. By looking into the code generated by code generators, you can tell whether it is generated by tool or whether it's generated by human because they will use a lot of cryptic names like if they will say variable one, variable underscore two, or they'll follow very non-human friendly nomenclature. But which is not the case here. Here all the names are very readable and they show what exactly this particular function or variable is supposed to do. So this makes code very maintainable. Definitely it could be edited. So now let's run this application in our IDE outside the Lovable. And you can modify this code and any modifications you do is free for you. So this is again a great business model because as a startup, if I will get less funds, maybe I'll do the manual coding. Right? Not use the tool and I might have to spend more time, but still I will not and I will be more effective. Okay. So something has happened here. Code space access limited, unexpected. So data problem, contact support for more information. Okay, I'm not sure what is this. This is a problem from GitHub, I believe, because we can do local development. So basically, what you have to do is you have this repository, you have to clone this repository. Then once you clone this repository, there are instructions. So you basically clone this repository, then you move to project, and then you have to npm install npm I npm run dev. So this in dev mode, auto reload, and then you can modify the code and see the changes. So very well structured code. This is the code which is generated by Anthropic code. So you also very well organized. Less refactoring is required. Wherever refactoring is required, it will just automatically. So basically, when there is a file which is more than 200 lines, automatically Lovable Dev is suggesting that please refactor it. And, you can do the refactoring through prompt because it will automatically refactor it. But yes, this will charge you because one credit will be lost when you doing refactoring of file. Or and if you have 100 files and you have to refactor hundreds of files, then you may charge a lot. For every edit, we'll have a charge of 25 cents. So yeah, you see here, this is the login page. So page code is for a React developer, very easy to understand. You can modify it very fast. And this is like working on any project. So yes, the manual written code, AI plus human can be really very powerful. Even if AI by alone is not powerful, humans alone are definitely powerful because with development since so many years. But now with AI, they are super powerful. Great. So once maybe in some other session, I will share more details, technical details. We'll deep dive into individual features. But yes, let me also take you through. This is the code which was generated by Anthropic. But there is a similar code I also generated with the help of OpenAI. So let's see how OpenAI code is different. Then let me just see what is the name of code. So we'll see the repositories. Okay, I have Anthropic code only committed here. This is a great thing. I can demonstrate how you can sync your code from Lovable to GitHub repository. So for this, what you have to do is if you have an existing product, for example, here I have this AI feedback manager. So now if I have to sync this product, so it says sync this project. So this is the same UI generated with the help of OpenAI. And I have discussed earlier in the session. When I evaluated all three, I found Claude to be better than the rest. For my use case, then here there is Git icon, GitHub icon. With this, you say that connected GitHub, and there is a two-way sync. So that means even if you modify the code, still the system will be able to update it, build further. So if I build one feature with manual written code, I can fix some bug on that particular feature using this tool. And the other way around is also true that if some feature is generated by the tool, I can fix it manually. So that's two-way sync, which is there. So I just say connect with GitHub. It will connect. I have some project. So I can say that connect this particular organization with GitHub. Then yes, it will update the code here. So now you see here, this has created a new repository and there is a view button. I can click on view. So it's as simple. It took me one click only to generate this code and sync it with GitHub repository. And it's looking exactly the same as some code written by Anthropic. So here by looking into the code, I think it will be hard to say that whether it is generated by Anthropic or whether it's generated by GPT, OpenAI GPT, then or it is generated by Gemini. So here is my code with, so I'm comparing it. The structure is exactly the same. I understand because the tool would have instructed to follow this particular pattern. They would have given a template. Then based on the template, it is generating more code. So here, let's go inside public folder. SRC be interesting case because the structure is exactly the same. I have here components. API docs was generated with Anthropic. I did not generated it in AI. But yes, interesting. I would write about an article about how to generate API docs. Then I have this authentication app, TS. Let me see some part which is common in both the places. So let's say I want to look into a component which is feedback form, which is there in both of them. So here is the code generated by OpenAI on the right side. Let's see, let me make it more visible to everyone. Just a minute. Let me look into how this is getting streamed. Yeah, definitely it's cut off. So yeah, I'll go here, I'll come here, and you are seeing on the right side the code written by OpenAI. On left side, we have code written by Anthropic. And here, if I open the feedback form, so here you see the code is almost same, right? So these are the components which are used. Definitely little different components are used in my Anthropic code. I have extended it a lot, but here you have something called feedback form props, on cancel, on close, on success, open. All these are the names. So much difference. Absolutely the same code which is generated by OpenAI and Anthropic. Let me do this way. I will open the code which is generated by say another AI tool, which let's open. Let me go to my dashboard and then I will choose Gemini. So this is the UI which was generated by Gemini. This was a limited time feature that they allowed us to choose the models, right? So yeah, now it is not possible to choose the model. I was just checking this. But yes, earlier it was model. It was possible to choose the model. But yeah, let me sync this in GitHub as well. So here I can connect this project again to my organization, or you can create an organization and then put this within your organization in GitHub. Now organizations are free in GitHub. So you see here the same single prompt. This is how the code structure is in. On the left side, we have Gemini. I have written here the naming also as Gemini. This one on the right is OpenAI. And if I look into the code structure, so both of them have exactly the same functionality, almost the same functionality. Maybe, yeah, here I have implemented some Supabase integration with there on Gemini, but yeah, mostly other stuff should be same. So here you can see, yeah, definitely both frameworks will be the same. So you have white config TS, and here also there is white config TS, exactly the same file, because maybe this is the template over which this Lovable AI starts building the code. But yes, the feedback form is what I generated. I gave prompt, and then based on the prompt, it generated all these components. And let's see what is being generated in OpenAI. The look and feel is definitely what you know distinguishes these tools. Now, if I go to the components, you have exactly similar number of components. So your feedback form, feedback list, feedback stats, feedback. There is header. This is feedback type icon. But yes, here you have header. Header has something like this. Let's see if something feedback stats, how it compares with, because this is the four cards at the top. So you have the code like this, interface, feedback stats, div. header and all. I'm finding a little bit. This one is looking me better. Gemini code is looking slightly better. The reason being, what I see is the less number of classes here. You have so many classes being used in these UI and elements. So this is looking to me more cleaner. Yeah. Can't say it's almost equal, right? If I spend more time looking into it and then figuring out if there are any bugs and all, then that it different things. Overall, in first glance, both the codes are looking good. We look into the feedback list. Feedback list one is the table, which is generated by OpenAI. The other one is sorted cards. So again, the same thing, like table is more complicated to code, but I would say that, yeah, Gemini is doing good job here. Here you have more classes, something like that here also. So yeah, that may be some occasional differences, but yes, it's hard to tell because first few lines are exactly the same. Because you see here, this exactly interface feedback list props is defined the same way in both these classes, both these code bases. Feedback list. So definitely the naming is the same. So not much difference in these. But yes, I'll go through the generated code in detail and see if there are any suggestions or improvements in one over the other. That would be a great point. But yes, as of now, no considerable difference between the code generated by different AIs. With respect to speed, yeah, definitely OpenAI I experienced was the fastest one. It was even faster than Anthropic. Gemini was second place, third place was Anthropic. So this is all the differences between these three AI models. This is how I built a kind of a fully functional multi-tenant, all the capabilities, taking care of all the best practices. So this is customizable. I will look into accessibility aspect of this particular code tool. I'll also look into internationalization. So that multi-tenancy from architectural aspects good. But yes, this is another very great functionality which was generated automatically by Anthropic was feedback filters. The search I already demonstrated. Feedback type is you can choose a feedback type and then this gets filtered by feedback type. And there is a filter by feed feed tags. So this is tag filter. So you will choose all the feedback with that particular tag. And this is also working very fast, flawlessly. And this is all the filters. So it's and it is or. When I choose wherever these tags are there, they will get listed. So for example, if I say bug report, it shows all the feedbacks which have bug report. And when I say pricing, it will also show either pricing or bug report. So this is or. And this is something we can document, maybe a user document or help, inline help will be helpful here. Other thing which I'm going to try is generating the sitemap for this so that it is SEO optimized application. So this is all I have for today. Thank you for attending this session and see you in the next sessions.